I see it's 9 o'clock. Everyone ready to start? Forgive me, I'm kind of rusty, but I'd like to ask if Craig Jones could lead us in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, Director Andy Korodeski will be participating via teleconference. I'd like to ask Director if you can hear us.
I sure can. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, and in your honor, all votes will be taken by roll call. And now I'd like to ask the clerk, Nancy, for a roll call vote.
Director Levine, Director Burns,
Here.
Director Poland, Director Lewitt,
Here.
Director Kordesky.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And now number 2, approval of the agenda. I'd like to ask the general manager if there are any changes.
No proposed changes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we need a motion and a second, please. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I'll
Second,
second it.
okay, roll call vote, please.
Director Levine,
Yes.
Director Burns,
Yes.
Director Poland,
Yes.
Director Lewitt,
Yes,
Director Kordesky.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you. 3, public comments. Members of the public may now address the Board of Directors on matters not appearing on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the board. No action shall be taken on any matter not appearing on the agenda. Any public comment cards?
There are no public comments.
None? Okay, thank you. Consent calendars, pages 7 through 201 in your scorebook. Anyone on the board wish to pull an item from the consent calendar?
I'd like to pull item 4D to discuss.
Okay, so we can vote on,
4C through and 4E and F.
okay, do you want to do a roll call vote for 4C and E and F? I guess A too, right? A and B?
I guess so, yeah.
Mhm.
Everything but C. Or
D.
D, everything but
Everything
D.
but D. Okay. Director Levine,
Yes.
Director Burns,
Yes.
Director Poland,
Yes.
Director Lewitt,
Yes.
Director Kordesky.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay,
5-0.
now, thank you. Now, if Director Holm would like to
I was
discuss.
going to ask, I
D.
was a little curious about the hydraulic operation, and the sewer system has not yet been modeled. Page 74 and 75 of our agenda.
Good morning, directors. I'm happy to answer any questions. Or I've never had an item pulled from consent. I can present on it if you.
On
can.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I've never had an item pulled from consent. Would you like me to walk through the item?
Yeah, yes.
So the purposes for this contract will be, as you stated, we're looking to get an update made to our potable water hydraulic model. So that has not been updated since about 2014. So we're due to have a consultant go through and perform updates based on recent changes to our system and some changes to how we've operated in the meantime, update demands and so on. And as far as the sewer portion of the work goes, we actually never have had a hydraulic model for our sewer system. It's not something we've needed in the past, but this consultant will be taking our GIS data and creating a model of our backbone trunk line system. And really the reason for that is we're looking to do a capacity analysis. A lot of that has to do with the pure water project. We know that we're going to have to discharge a significant amount of the testing water to sewer for a long period of time. So we're looking to make sure that we will have significant capacity to be able to do that.
Well, we're predicting a certain flow,
Mm-hmm.
which we have no factual data to support that. Is that true, or is it are we basing it on assumptions? What does this mean?
In terms of the flow rate that will
Flow
be
rate,
produced
yeah.
by pure water?
Exactly.
I can't necessarily speak to that analysis for pure water. My understanding is I know that we do have a very large trunk system. I don't know that we necessarily are worried about it. We're just looking to get that capacity analysis.
We're probably okay, but we need to do our due diligence and just
Sure.
confirm, and we have time. If we need to do some upsizing or something like that, we have time before we put the pure water plant online. So this is a time to do some modeling, just to confirm that we're gonna be good. And if not, we'll have time to do some upsizing.
We also talked about at strategic planning, water augmentation strategies. And so having this model will help us if we look at augmentation of the wastewater system to be sure that we're not overtaxing the capacity of the sewer collection system. So I think this will be a real great advancement. I would say doing these hydraulic models, it's less common for a wastewater system than for potable pressurized systems, but it is still, I think, important, especially given our circumstances with pure water and plans to augment our sewer system.
And it will, of course, have benefits for long-term planning, future projects to have that data available.
So for this director who's not an engineer but tries to act like one, could you explain exactly what this means? I read the report and I still don't understand. Are you putting one of those pig things down, or how is this being done and what does it actually look like so that you're seeing what you're seeing? I didn't understand that.
So in terms of the sewer model, this is mostly a desktop exercise. They'll be taking our GIS and record drawing data and just creating a digital copy of our system effectively. There is some field work in terms of they will be performing flow modeling of our sewer system. So they'll go into manholes and install flow monitoring devices to allow them to calibrate the model and make sure that the flow rates being modeled are correct. But for the most part, it is just a computer-based exercise.
At the end of the day, you don't want to have SSO, which stands for sanitary sewer overflow. So you don't want sewage coming up onto the street. And of course, there's a lot of issues associated with that, including fines. So it is, as Sarah mentioned, it's not something that we've done in the past. It is pretty common though to model sewer systems. Of course, big part of this effort is updating the potable system as well. Which there's a lot of merits to doing that.
Is the county has the collection system? We're talking we're talking the trunk lines that feed into us?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah.
So one of
So
the things,
oh, go ahead.
no, it was me talking. One of the things, Dave, that I remember when we went on the tour for the new outflow line, that we were going to actually have to put water in the street, and we had to watch that the sewer line was large enough to accommodate the pure water plant coming back eastward. How does this affect that?
So what we might have been talking about is what you'd call filter to waste, or, when the treatment plant is running, we're talking about the advanced water purification facility. There's going to be a whole bunch of parameters that need to be met for the water to go to the system, so to speak, and put that water in the reservoir. When you start up the plant, there'll be a period of time where there's testing going on and we're confirming that everything is performing the way it is supposed to. And so we will likely be running the system to waste, where it would be going back to the sewer. And that's sort of a normal operation. We do that at Westlake also. Westlake will run and it will recycle the water back into the lake. So in any treatment facility, you need a means to start it up and dispose of the water until it meets all the parameters that are necessary.
So will this help us determine if there's enough space in the sewer system going back eastward along Agora Road? That's what I was.
It will,
alluding-
yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Well, and as was mentioned too, it gives us that same capacity throughout our system in case we would look for future augmentation sources. It basically will give us a view of what the capabilities of our system are in terms of accepting additional flow.
I was just surprised that it's on desktop modeling. I didn't see that, so maybe I missed that. I just thought someone was going and crawling through the sewer system to do this.
No.
I think the fee would be quite a bit higher if that were the case.
There is a annexation that we've been looking at on the east end of our service area. But before we would exercise that, we need to make sure that the sewer system could take those flows. So that's just another example. It's not just pure water. It's for a handful of purposes.
That was one of the questions in the back of my mind. I mean, it's all hypothetical. you say you're looking at an eastern system. I'm thinking of, so what happens with District 29, but that's speculation. So this is gonna model what we have.
Mhm.
Would you like to make a motion?
Fine. I'd like to make a motion to approve item 4D as published.
Is there a second?
I'll say.
I'll vote.
Director Levine,
Yes.
Director Burns,
Yes.
Director Pollen,
Yes.
Director Lewitt,
Yes.
Director Kordesky.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, directors.
Thank you. Item 5, illustrative and or verbal presentation agenda items. 5A, water supply conditions update, page 201. If Don Patterson could please provide the report.
Thank you. I will provide the report. Up on the screen is the Metropolitan Water District Water Supply Condition Report. Of note here on the top left, and these numbers are as of March 22nd. The Northern Sierra snowpack had dropped to 12%. You may recall that during the last report at the end of February was at 52%. So during March, it significantly decreased. And the Northern Sierra 8-station rain index went from 113% at the end of February to 99% of normal at the end of March, as of March 22nd. So you can see, that the trend continued and got worse in March with no real significant snowfall during the entire month. On the Colorado River Basin, same story. The snowpack dropped from 69% at the end of February to 48% of normal towards the end of March. So both the snowpacks and the Colorado and State Water Project continue to be dismal. The State Water Project allocation remains at 30%. And then I reordered this a little bit. These numbers on this slide are actually a little more than a week after the previous one. So you can see the Northern Sierra snowpack went from 12% on March 22nd to 6% as of March 30th. So it continued to go down. And the Southern Sierra continues at 33%. And then I threw this picture in there because I think it really tells the story. And you may have seen this on the news or in a news publication after the April 1st snow measurement. The picture on the left is the one that people have been showing from 2023 when it was a really good year. And the picture on the right is the snow survey on April 1st. And I mean, to me, the most fascinating thing here is that they're going through all the motions. I mean, you can still see the guy with the probe, looking, getting that little dot of snow in the probe. So they are diligent. I see President Kordesky has his hand raised. So if you have a question before I move on.
Yeah, hi, Don. I guess I didn't mean to interrupt your presentation. I was just hoping that we have that we could discuss what this just really means in the big view, in the overview. I would assume that we have enough water in the reservoirs to last us through this summer and into next winter's rainy season and snowy season. But I don't know for sure. So I was just hoping that we get some of that information out today.
Well, that is a great lead into a couple of slides later. So
I didn't mean to.
Next chart you can see is the one that you've seen typically of the Northern Sierra precipitation and 8-station index. So on this one, the current is at 41.3, which with the rainfall, that we experience is not as dismal as the snowpack. And then to get to your question, the reservoir conditions. So the reservoirs continue to be at 100% or over 100% of average for this time of year. So I think, and Dave can chime in here, based on the reservoir status, it seems like that we're in okay shape for this coming summer. I think the big question is what happens next year. There's predictions of an El Nino now and a super El Nino and what that means. The La Nina that we had this year ended up being a lot of rain and heavy at times. So for the upcoming summer, based on the reservoir conditions, it seems like that we should be in pretty good shape. Dave, do you have any?
No, I would agree. I think
information?
you outlined it well, Don. So the water supply situation is kind of three parts. You look at snow, precipitation, and reservoir storage. What we've got is two parts are okay, and the third being the snowpack is really poor. Normally, April 1st, the reason that's sort of the measurement point is that is supposed to be the time of year when we have the greatest snowpack. So what you saw in that picture is a dramatic shift on that. We're seeing earlier snow melt, which is a real problem. It won't affect us this year, but if we do have a repeat next year, we're going to begin to see the drought monitor get red in California and begin to see some more talk about drought. And if it were to happen a third year, we're going to begin to see some real impacts. So fortunately, we have good reservoir storage and rainfall or precip has been decent. We have a 30% state water project allocation. Department of Water Resources almost never reduces that number. They only increase it throughout the year. I would not expect it to increase a lot from here. In fact, it may not increase at all. But at 30%, Metropolitan is roughly balanced so that they're able to supply demands without a huge draw from storage. So it's really next year that we need to look at and how the winter unfolds beginning in October.
And so, I'm sorry. Ultimately, if we have full reservoirs, then we have two years essentially of water. Is that?
Yes, I think that's fair to say 2 to 3 years.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
We learned back in 2022 that that held true. I think we were a bit shocked because we had 2 really, really dry years. So I think we learned that if you have 2 back-to-back severely dry years, you can be in trouble pretty quickly. But for all purposes, it's probably more like 3.
Okay.
Unless
Great.
we have those record-setting conditions again.
And on the reservoir conditions chart, you can see that they're all either at or higher than the historical average for this time of year. So that's the positive note that Mr. Peterson was talking about. The last slide I put in here was the drought monitor, and Dave kind of hit on this. You can see that the northern and central Sierra are yellow now, but that is a lot better than the Colorado River Basin, which, as you can see, shows extreme or exceptional drought. So we'll be monitoring this as the season goes on to see how that affects next year's water supply. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Don? Director Burns?
No, the question was going to be for you. What
Oh.
do you think Metropolitan will be able to do for us if there is a drought situation?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, hopefully they'll give us, our share of water, and that we'll have to, be independent and rely on our own conservation and our own customers who stepped up last time with 73% savings. And hopefully we don't have to ask them to do that again. But I try to look for good news in all of this. And if it doesn't rain or snow for the next 2 or 3 years, the good news is that maybe the water community will look for long-term solutions like sites and subsidence and maybe even look to the Pacific Ocean as water. So I think that's the negative is no rain or snow, but I look at it as a positive because maybe we'll make some good long-term decisions, which I think is what we need in this state. So let's move on. Thank you very much, Don. To number B, legislative and regulatory update. If Mayor Wolf could please provide the report. Take your time.
I apologize, there's a lot of logistics involved, but let's see in my report. There we go. So good morning, board. It's great to be here to presenting. I know some of the stuff we'll be discussing was mentioned last night, but I'm going to jump right into it. At my last presentation, I mentioned that we had submitted a federal budget request for the Advanced Water Purification Brine Line Connection, say that 10 times fast, to Congresswoman Julia Brownlee's office. We have now submitted this request to Padilla and Schiff's office, And as a refresher, we are focusing on what is called Reach 3, which is the final phase of the brine pipeline. It's a proposed right now 12-inch, that might be changing, approximately 14-mile pipeline. This is the last part of the pipeline that will convey saline concentrate from our advanced water purification facility in Agora to Callegas's existing salinity management pipeline system for final discharge. So this is a very, very, I think, attractive budget request to our U.S. senators and to our Congress members because it checks so many boxes. It was a team effort to get this submitted, and I'm thrilled that we got that into Schiff and Padilla's office. At the end of March, the U.S. Department of the Interior announced an $889 million investment in Western water infrastructure through the Bureau of Reclamation, primarily funded by the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. The funding is focused on drought resilience, water recycling, storage improvement, and ecosystem restoration projects across the Western United States. So what does this funding look like? Here's a lot of numbers, but I'm just going to read some of it. It's primarily directed towards major Central Valley project facilities, focusing on restoring capacity, improving reliability, and expanding storage. And as you can see, there's funding for the Delta Mendota Canal, $235 million, Freenot Kern Canal, $200 million, San Luis Canal, $50 million, Tema Calusa Canal, $15 million, Shasta Dam, which is a big one, $40 million. And although the funding is concentrated in the Central Valley, these are critical backbone facilities of the California water system. Improvements to conveyance and storage will and can enhance overall system reliability, which ultimately benefits Southern California agencies that we rely on this interconnect system. So for a change, some good news on some funding coming out of the federal government. Moving it right along, I've told some of you guys about this, but if you haven't heard, there was a big shakeup in our assembly race since the last time I presented to this board. So last time I presented, there was 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. Kelly Honig, the Democrats were Kelly Honig from Westlake Village and Deborah Klein Lopez from Agora. But due to a filing error, Kelly Honig will not be on the ballot. This when she appealed it and it went to a Sacramento court, and the court ruled against her. She filed forms that needed to be, her domicile in LA County were filed in Ventura County. And I've never heard of this happening in my years in political space. And so she did not qualify for the ballot. So now there's only 1 Democrat and 2 Republicans for AD 42, which is the entirety of our service area. So that's a really big shakeup, and Deborah has a very clear path to victory now because the district is, I think, D, depending on likely voters, but about D+8. So it's going to be really interesting to see, but it's a big shakeup, and it was kind of unexpected. But so Kelly will not be on the ballot.
So I just want to ask you one question about that. I read about this, and it seemed to me that the Ventura County office gave her the information that, yes, she was doing it right. The LA County office said, yes, she was doing it right. The judge said, it's your responsibility to know that you're doing it right. Where are you supposed to find out the information to do it right?
So I don't want to get too into it, but the information was on the form. So and the ruling that came back said that it stated it in 5 different places. And so it is incumbent on the candidate to properly read the form. And that's kind of what the judge ruling was, because it does state it in the paperwork. But that's a good question. So that has a big shakeup in our assembly race because it's completely our service area and our JPA area. So tracking that closely. I know Cyrus talked about this last night, but the governor's race, highly competitive, wide open, 10 major candidates, 8 Democrats, 2 Republicans. Polling shows fragmented electorate. No Democratic candidate has consolidated the majority of support, but as you guys saw, Trump came out to support Hilton yesterday, which from some analysts' view, almost takes away any possibility of a Republican in the runoff, which was a really interesting decision by the Trump administration, because I thought there could have been a really likely chance of there being two Republicans, but because of Trump's endorsement, it will consolidate support for Hilton, and I think it's going to be Steyer, Porter, or Swalwell, one of the three Democrats that get through. But that was a big shakeup. And which one's the best on water? I don't know. I don't know which one is going to have the biggest impact for Las Virgenes, but we'll be following that closely. Moving right along, want you guys, the board, to be updated to know that we continue our advocacy efforts at the state level. This was a really busy month of signing on to different legislation. We've signed on to various coalitions, and I'm just going to highlight a few key pieces of legislation this session that aligns with our priorities around water reliability, wildfire prevention, and local control. So we're supporting SB 1153, which is an AQUA-sponsored bill addressing wildfire liability. And our general manager was the lead witness, was or will be, or both, twice in different committees. And he's really kind of the leading authority on this in the state. So once again, Las Virgenes has an outsized impact on the legislative front. SB 872, which Vice President Lewitt knows about, but it's critical to maintaining reliable water supplies for Southern California through increased collaboration between the Delta and Southern California stakeholders dealing with a subsidence issue. So that's a really exciting bill that we're tracking. Some other ones, AB 1893, which expands eligible wildfire mitigation activities so we can apply for more grant funding. We're supporting bills AB 2215, which would extend timeline for full development of state water project right permits until 2085. We've taken a support position on, it's a bill called SB 1085, which focuses on improving water supply planning. AB 2180, which relates to Prop 218 implementation and ensures a fair proportional cost of service framework for local governments. And then most recently, we joined a coalition with the CASA, California Association of Sanitation Agencies and Water Reuse, on a bill AB 2777, which would provide additional flexibility for the State Water Resource Control Board to modernize the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. And I know Don had an impact on this legislation too. So we're staying really busy on the legislative front and engaging and joining a lot of coalitions. I'll be brief on this one, but I know the one bill that we have opposed, we've joined an opposed coalition, and we're working on our letter of opposition, is AB 2013. I know about 80% of Cyrus's presentation last night was on this, but we don't like this bill. We're going to fight this bill, and I think we will have an impact on changing some of the language of this bill because it's extremely problematic for Las Virgenes. And wrapping it up, bringing it to the local level, I learned and saw that last week Supervisor Horvath and LA County Public Works Director Mark Pastrella joined the Malibu City Council to break ground on the Carbon Canyon Water Main and Pump Station in Malibu. This $14 million project will replace approximately 7,000 feet of aging water main with a larger pipeline that meets current fire flow standards, along with key pump station upgrades to improve system pressure, reliability, and performance. This project is part of a broader $250 million capital investment in Waterworks District 9, aimed at strengthening water infrastructure, supporting wildfire resilience, and enabling homeowners to rebuild to modern fire safety standards. Construction is underway and anticipated to be completed by December 27, with additional infrastructure improvements planned across Malibu and the Santa Monica Mountains over the next 5 years. And so interestingly, I saw that this came out, and then I saw over the weekend there was 2 different boil notices in Malibu District 29. So as we talked about at the workshop, there's a lot going on in District 29, so I wanted to update the board on this project. And with that, I know we have a packed agenda. That completes my presentation.
Appreciate your thorough report. Mayor, any questions for Director Poland?
So on SB 872, is there any funding for repairing the subsiding state water project aqueduct?
That is a great question, and the funding source would be coming from the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. Vice President Lewitt, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, that actually, and on April 21st, I might have to miss our board meeting, or I can maybe do it remotely from Sacramento with notice, of course. I'm gonna fly up to Sacramento to lobby for the state water contractors, and the only pot of money is from this, as the
GGRF.
greenhouse gas. The problem is that we're not the only people looking for that money. Every environmentalist in California has their hands in that pot. So that's the part that I'm worried the most about. We have a great coalition. In fact, Restore the Delta, who was our opponent on the tunnels, is with us, and it's a really broad coalition, but we're fighting against other people who want the same dollars. So we have to figure out if we are successful with the bill, if there really is a path to get money before we, commit.
Director Polin, it's actually a great question.
Go ahead.
Because of maybe the unreliability of the GGRF funds and the amounts that are requested for, I think, I forgot the timeline. Do you remember the timeline? I think it's a 30-year. But yeah, and a lot of people are going for funding from that same pot.
Same pot, right.
It's a great question.
Unfortunately, so nobody has any legislation introduced to provide funding for this specific issue. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what this McNerney bill, the bill is to get funding, but it's
Sorry,
funding.
what bill?
McNerney, 872, SB
Oh,
872.
872 is
Yeah.
designed to get funding.
Yes,
for the-
from the GGRF fund.
From the
I
that's the
think
pot they identified.
That's the only, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's something like $30 to $100 million a year for 30 years.
Yeah.
Something like that. I'll
That's
find
where
out.
it starts.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was 150 million a year for 20 years.
it
It's a
might
big
very
number.
well be.
It's a
Yeah,
big-
it's a big number. It's a big number.
It starts off with a big number, but it ends up, if there's anything, a smaller number.
But we know the subsidence issue and it's in the billions of dollars and it needs to be addressed. So
Yeah, we like water.
we do.
It's
Any
critical to our water. That's even more critical than, as long as we have water, we want to be able to get it.
Correct.
Any other questions? And I think to answer your question, who's best on water, I think 9, none of the above for the governor.
I'll let them know.
We're gonna be wishing Gavin.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your report. Now, number 6, the Treasury Report, Director Levine.
Okay, thank you. We had a large check run this time of a little over 7 million, of which the majority, or about 5 million or so, was through the JPA operation, of which we would expect as phase 2 is ramping up. And almost all of it went to Walsh. So I think over 4 million of the 5 million. So everything else was consistent with our normal operations. That concludes my report.
Questions for the treasurer? Thank you for doing that. We appreciate your
Yeah.
expertise and you're willing to step up at this important issue.
Big expertise.
And now number 7, Board of Directors, 7A, Local Agency Formation Commission. Some of us know that as LAFCO. There's an election of a special district representative on page 206, and I'd like to ask our clerk, Nancy Lawrence, to provide the report.
Thank you. On March 9th, the district received notification from Lagerlof LLP on behalf of the Local Agency Formation Commission, LAFCO, that the ballots for the special district representative must be returned by May 1st. There are 3 candidates, one being our very own Director Burns. The other 2 are Vera Robles DeWitt from Water Replenishment District of Southern California, and then Robert Lewis from Roland Water District. So staff recommendation is to select a candidate to serve as the LAFCO Special District Representative and authorize the general manager to execute and return the official voting ballot no later than 5 p.m. on May 1st.
Thank you. So do we have any discussion of this item?
I
I'll
support
move
it.
it.
Well, a motion, was that ex-President Kordesky?
That was.
That was your motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second myself.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I support Director Burns in his efforts to get on the LAFCO board.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second, Director Burns?
So let me tell you that last week, the Santa Clarita Northern Board of groups of agencies in that area brought together many of the members that support LAFCO. There were about 60 people there. I was there. And Vera, who's very competent, was there. The incumbent did not show up and did not even notify that he was not going to show up. They continually looked for him, and he just did not show up at all. And we had a really great back and forth discussion. I think it's important because we've never really brought this up before. Just so you see, this is what I did to prepare. It's about 100 pages long, and I've learned everything about LAFCO. So hopefully, if I'm there, I'll have some idea. Their agendas are quite extensive like ours, but very technical. But I think that most people don't realize that LAFCOs actually assign physical space and define the identities of local governments. They have both planning and very strong regulatory powers. It's really very interesting. They control the timing and location of development of water, sewer, fire protection, flood control, meaning it's growth inducing, so that they control how. And they began because Los Angeles spread in so many different directions that they were actually annexing parties of land that weren't even connected to each other. And they wanted to make sure that the boundaries stayed together. They also control parks, libraries, and airports, which are growth supporting. And interesting, hospitals, cemeteries, and pest abatement, which are non-growth related. But right now, they've got an issue out in Riverside with eye-eating bugs. And it was brought up because it's a big problem for the people there, and they're discussing how to handle that. So, like I said, they regulate airport districts, California water districts, municipal utility districts, and municipal water districts, which of course is us. So the last election in 24, out of 52 possible voting districts, only 29 voted. We're hoping to get all 52. And I'm actually working with Vera to make sure that they do see us and present us. She was very capable, very nice lady, and we had a great discussion. It was a lot of fun and very illuminating. I met a lot of great people up there too.
Thank you for that. Any more discussion on this matter? Okay, then we'll take a roll call vote.
Your motion is to select Director
To
Burns?
support Director Burn, the motion is to support,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, I
Support-
made the motion. It's to support Director Burns.
All right. Director Levine,
Yes.
Director Burns,
Yes.
Director Poland,
Yes,
Director Lewitt,
Yes.
Director Kordesky.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right,
Thank
good
you,
luck.
everyone.
Okay, number 8, the General Manager Report, Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, which we like to call CAAP around here. Annual update on page 218. If Craig Jones, did I have Craig Jones here? Is that
Actually, Joe will give the report on this item.
Joe McDermott? Craig's still reeling from his heel loss.
Out.
Okay, here we go. So good morning, directors. Going to give you a brief presentation on the Climate Action Adaptation Plan. This is an annual update. And really covering for 2025, but the update, of course, for this year, 2026. So a little background. The CAP, or the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, it was originally adopted by the LV board back in October of 2023, as well as the Joint Powers Authority board at around the same time. The plan here this go around is we're making this formal presentation just to the LVMWD board, and this will go as an informational only to the next JPA meeting. So you'll see it on the agenda for May at the JPA. The plan really was developed. The real impetus was that when we were applying for the state water SRF, State Revolving Fund, one of the boxes that we needed to check off was to produce and provide them with a copy of a climate action and adaptation plan, which we did not have. So as you know, the SRF loan is a very low interest rate loan, around 2%. And so to compete for that, we really needed to go through this effort. I will say, though, that there's a lot of other benefits to doing this plan. One is a lot of the actions and measures in the plan that ultimately that we're trying to implement is for greenhouse gas emissions, reducing those. But probably more importantly is really strengthen and or protect our infrastructure with climate change. So of course, you know, we've had a winter where there's been a lot of rain. We've seen a lot of pipeline main breaks in recent months, in part because of all that rain. So there are things in this plan that help us to better preserve our infrastructure and to get ahead of things, and so that we're in a good position to continue providing a reliable supply of water. We've talked about water supply resilience. So in the plan, there's a lot of different components of the plan, but in the plan is our pure water project. So not relying so much on importing water and having a local supply. So there's things like that. And I already talked about the benefit of having a plan to be able to compete for certain grants and low interest loans like the SRF loan. And we actually even needed to produce and provide a plan for the latest on our NPDES permit for, which is with the Regional Water Quality Control Board for discharges to Malibu Creek at present. As you know, that's gonna, we are not gonna be able to discharge to Malibu Creek by November 2030. So it's an important plan. Real quick, there's 110 different actions in the plan. So it is in the agenda packet starting on the report starts on page 218. There's a matrix that's attached that lists out all the different measures and actions. 5 of those have been completed. 51, so quite a few of these are underway. And we've actually added 3 new actions for this go around, and I'll talk about those a little bit. One thing with this report that I'm providing this morning is I'd like to get some feedback from the board on what to do about solar photovoltaic installations. So I'll talk with you a little bit about that, and hoping that there's some discussion on that, so staff has some clear direction on which way we could go. So this next slide is showing one of those completed action items. It's not entirely completed though. I'll say it's pending, right, Jim? There are still some things that the contractor needs to do before we could even deem it substantially complete. But this is a 1 megawatt solar installation that has been in the works for a year or 2 now, at least. It will provide power to the composting facility, and just provide some more resiliency with that operation. The one thing with this project, similar to the other solar installation that we did in the northern spray field, originally a 1 megawatt facility there as well, but we expanded with added 4 additional megawatts of solar panels, so for a total of 5. We have quite a few solar installations at this point, especially when you look at including this one. So we'll have about 6 megawatts total once this one is fully complete. Just a fun fact with the 5 megawatt installation that we already have, that we've had in operation, it produces enough power to offset our electricity demands at Tapia Water Reclamation Facility. So that's a huge achievement. And the Tapia Reclamation Facility uses a lot of electricity to run. It doesn't feed it directly, but we get those credits through the Edison program that existed at the time, and that we'll continue to take advantage of. The thing with these programs is a lot of them are going away, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes here.
Joe, just one question. From what it cost us to build it to what we benefited, what's the cost ratio? I assume we're
Costs us $0 to build it.
It was fully paid for with government funds?
The total 5 megawatts or the 1 megawatt I was just sharing with you, those were done under power purchase agreements. So we have these companies that come in, build them, and then we just basically pay them for that power instead of paying Edison. The savings for us is that it's generally a fixed or near fixed cost for the electricity. So while Edison costs continue to increase year after year, generally, in time you save money. So the 5 megawatt that we have operating right now projected to, compared to what we would have been paying with Edison for electricity, somewhere between 20 and $30 million over the life of the project. So it's pretty substantial.
Thank you.
Some of the actions underway, some of these are ongoing. Water conservation is one of those that's listed in the plan. And it is an important component. Just to give you an example, in 2025, we use 28% less potable water from our customers, use 28% less potable water compared to the year 2020. 2020 is our baseline year that we use. The plan calls for reducing by 25% by the year 2030. So we're already ahead of schedule on that one. We've also, on the recycled water side, we're at 21% reduction in use for 2025 compared to 2020. And the plan calls for a 20% reduction in recycled water. So we're ahead of schedule on that as well. The key with water conservation is you have to stay on it. Otherwise habits bad habits come back and people slip, and we could get back to the kind of water usage that we had some time ago. The other thing is in the plan is it speaks to a lot of things related to water resiliency. So one of the things, of course, as you're aware, that we've been doing is working with Metropolitan and the other state water project dependent agencies, Cayugas, LADWP, and really pushing for better connectivity with Metropolitan Water District, in particular their central pool. So think of us having a straw in the LA Basin area where we could get access to Diamond Valley Lake water, reservoir water, and also future Pure Water SoCal and Colorado River. So that's the Sepulveda Pass project that we keep pushing for. They're in their stage 1 construction right now, and we'll be pushing for the stage 2, which will provide even more water. Pure Water project, that's in there. Again, water resiliency, less dependence on imports. Fire hardened facilities, that's in the plan. Just yesterday, Jim Corcus met up with the consultant, and they did walk through some facilities, and this is a Dudek Engineering that we hired to help us come up with a implementation plan to harden our facilities against wildfire. So that's in the works. And then even runoff diversions to augment water supply for the Pure Water project. This is just a map that we created that shows different locations where we will potentially divert urban runoff. So during dry weather and wet weather, and divert those flows to sewer that could then get treated down at Tapia and then ultimately get treated at our advanced water purification facility. When you add these all up, it's to the tune of about 1,500 acre feet annually. So it's pretty significant. New actions added to the cap. So there's 3 new items added. They're at the very end of the matrix, but water supply diversification study, as you're aware, that's something that I shared with the board at our workshop last week. That we plan on having that completed by the summer. Studying the feasibility for implementing seawater desalination. So right now that's the partnership that we have with Ocean Well. And then purchasing and storing groundwater for use during drought conditions. As you're aware, we've purchased 6,000 acre feet in partnership with Irvine Ranch Water District. The photo on the right is with is the spreading grounds with the Rio Bravo Water District. And basically that purchase and that agreement we entered into will allow us to extract up to 850 acre feet annually for up to 3 years. If you do the math, again, 6,000 acre feet is a lot more than that. It's because we have to leave half of that 6,000 behind, so 3,000 plus another 15%. And that's just part of the arrangement that we have, and it's actually very common for groundwater purchases. So as I mentioned to the board at the workshop, one of the things that it looks like is going to come out of this water supply diversification study is likely a recommendation to purchase additional groundwater. And the reason for that is just to help us be more resilient, at least in the near term, until we get other water supply sources such as pure water fully up and running, and some of these other supply sources that we're looking at to diversify our water supply portfolio. So here's the big question is, should we pursue more solar power installations? So measure I-1 in the CAP, utilize carbon-free electricity for 100% of electricity needs by 2030. First of all, don't let that scare you. One of the important, there's actually a clause in the CAP. We will not, staff will not automatically pursue things just for the sake of meeting a certain target. There are some caveats. Ultimately, this board gets to decide whether it's implementing something like additional solar if it's feasible. So if it's deemed feasible, there's a return on the investment, then a lot of times to get to that point, we need to do some kind of study or analysis to make that determination. And then ultimately the board will decide if it's something we want to pursue. I don't know in this particular, this target, if that's something that's going to be achievable. A lot of it depends on the state has pretty lofty goals for having 100% renewable. And actually the state has been doing a really good job of trending towards that target. And so we will be purchasing quite a bit of our electricity still from Edison, as we have been. And that electricity that we purchase, a lot of it now is even produced with renewables. So I don't know if this target is going to be achievable, but it is in the CAP, and it's something that at least now we're currently pursuing. Action I-1.2 is kind of a sub-bullet under this measure. So it's to conduct a feasibility study to understand the potential for installing additional solar. In this case, it states up to 15 megawatts of solar, floating solar photovoltaic at Las Virgenes Reservoir. And then, of course, looking at the feasibility of doing that. In action I-1.3, conduct an assessment to identify the solar capacity needed to support the additional electricity demand for vehicle fleet and employee commuter fleet electric vehicle adoption. The photo to the right is taken up at our Reservoir 2 behind the headquarters here. It's kind of looking down on the courtyard. There's the parking lot area. There's a lot of rooftop space. So it would be looking at a modification to this action would be really looking at the potential for installer like parking canopy, solar photovoltaic, and potentially taking advantage of these rooftops where there's a lot of space. I wanted to share this. This is a photo of installations at the Ventura County Government Center. They've been installing parking canopy structures. You see a lot of these going in at a lot of schools as well now. I'm not as familiar with what Los Angeles Unified has been doing or some of the other school districts, but I know Ventura Unified has been doing a lot of these in the schools as well. So it seems to be a pretty common practice right now to take advantage of these huge parking lots and trying to capture as much sun with that area as possible. The Ventura County Government Center, it's about a 7 megawatt installation, so it's pretty massive. What I will say is that with the new administration and with some changes in regulations, there's been changes in incentives and rebates. The 30% federal tax credit is basically gone away. And because of that, the power purchase agreement arrangement is probably going away as well. There's just not the financial incentive for these companies to come in and work under that business model. So for us, we've had a lot of good luck with the power purchase agreement, the PPA that we did on the 5 megawatts that we have in operation right now. The last one, the one that we're trying to wrap up over at Rancho, that's also a PPA. We've had a lot of challenges with that. The board might be hearing about some of those challenges in a future meeting, but I will say that if we do pursue some studies and analysis and installing future solar, we'll be taking a hard look at if it just makes more sense, and it probably will, just to own these things outright or finance them and basically operate, maintain them ourselves, as opposed to a PPA arrangement. The other thing that's changing is with some of the regulations, it's not making Edison, you can't just feed electricity into the Edison system anymore and get those credits. It's really, things are shifting to where really if you produce solar, you need to use it at location. And so that means sizing it probably smaller than we would have in the past, so that we're not producing more power than what we need, in this case, at headquarters here for all our buildings and air conditioning and lighting and all those things that we need it for. So the recommendation is to receive the climate action and adaptation plan and provide feedback on the continued implementation of the CAP, including activities associated with action items I-1.2 and I-1.3, to study additional solar power installations. So again, hoping to get some feedback from the board. Again, the staff recommendation is to at least do an analysis and study whether we want to do any more solar installations, not to do the actual installations until we've concluded those studies and presented them to the board, at which time we could decide whether we're going to actually install anything. So I think it's important to do those studies and then go from there. So
Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Thank you for that report. Do we have feedback for Joe and his team? Anybody?
Hey,
Bueller?
Joe,
Randy?
my understanding is while they got rid of that 30%, the PPA is still the way to go. But did you know that I heard that you get another 10% if the panels are made domestically? Have you heard that?
I haven't heard that specific. I don't know if Jim has heard that, but that is one thing we're up against, is the regulations keep changing. And so we're kind of up against that as well, working with some unknowns.
I only say it because people I know that were looking into this, that wanted to do a PPA, didn't do it, but now this year it's actually gotten more advantageous. And if you're dealing with the right company that's using domestic panels, you get they get another 10% that you can negotiate in a
Right.
deal. So
Yeah.
something to be aware of.
That's primarily focused for residential solar, not commercial or industrial.
It doesn't apply.
Not, usually not. And then if under a PPA, they're going to absorb all of what they can out of that. And then, like our 5 meg, I think contractually, we're probably at 8 cents kilowatt hour right now. So it's pretty low.
Wow.
So, but it's not sustainable anymore for them because they bring in all these investors to buy these solar systems, and we've traded hands 2 times already on who owns that one. So it's just it's a stock market piece, really.
One thing that's happened is even though the federal credit is essentially gone away, is that the panels themselves have become cheaper. So,
The cost to produce is less.
yeah, yeah,
Versus
and they
purchase the
continue to
cost.
get cheaper and cheaper all the time. So it's still, you know, it can still
Yeah.
make a lot of sense to install solar, for us to save money in the long term.
President Kordesky, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Vice President Lewitt. Yeah, so Joe, I really, I think we should study this. I think that's a wise idea. I think, I think I'm not an expert on solar panels, but it seems like general maintenance for them is fairly straightforward by this point. It's not rocket science. It's not something that's brand new. It's something that's been done for many years at this point, and I think we could own our own potentially and maintain it well enough. Yeah, I support going ahead and having a study done.
Director Poland?
I too support it. I have a question though on how are you gonna put for 15 megawatts of floating solar? And how do they adapt to the fact that the reservoir goes up and down?
Yeah.
That was, but by the way, I have my own solar system, so to me, it's a no-brainer, but that's got me puzzled.
Yeah, so excellent question. So when the cap got originally put together a few years ago, the 30% federal tax credit was still in play. And also the ability to generate power and put it into the grid and get credit, that was still in play. That's all going away. So a 15 megawatt out there may not make sense anymore. It's really whatever we generate, it'll be for what we need to, for instance, run Westlake filtration plant. And perhaps the pump station that pulls water
So-
out of the reservoir.
As part of the solar system, is there any thought given to batteries too, so that in the nighttime needs,
Yeah, this would be part of the study.
24-hour day, 24-hour service, yeah.
The other thing I want to emphasize is that we're not stuck on floating solar. It may be more economical just to do some solar installation that's mounted on ground as opposed to floating solar.
For your information, the White Oak School across the street from me has a parking lot solar system. So Las Virgenes Unified has been moving on that too.
Yeah.
A lot.
I mean, we have roof space out there. There's other places we could stick solar besides.
Without having to take dirt, or dirt that's not being used. Is that what you're saying?
There's some areas out there that we could look at. There's the earth and borrow area on the opposite side of the reservoir. So it's all a lot of good questions that we need to answer, and that's part of doing the study.
Go for it.
You have a question?
You just brought up a question. Why would we not produce enough power to power this building as well? Is it too far away to transfer it? I didn't understand that.
No, I'm actually talking about really two main locations to explore solar. One is at the Las Virgenes Reservoir, and that could be floating solar. It could be ground mounted solar out there. The other would be here at headquarters, generally in the parking lot area that's behind we call Building 7 right here. And so generate enough power to really run the headquarters buildings, so the campus here.
Well, as some of you may know, and we all received over the last probably 4 years, brochures from White Pine Solar, and I've had discussions with them at some of the conferences. I'm not so sure I'm in favor of floating any longer because there are all kinds of issues. But the ground area that you discussed is a really interesting way and would be simple as anything we've got now. But rather than wait, although I'm in favor of certainly investigating this, what are the problems we're having with the 1 megawatt at Rancho? Just in very brief summary. Brief summary,
Dave, you want to take a shot at that?
top of the line, top of.
I think the brief summary, they have agreed to certain contract obligations and they're having trouble meeting them. That's a simple summary. The bigger picture thing here is the solar market has really changed dramatically. So in the early years of us doing solar, the solar installations were done by big companies like Tesla. So our very first solar project was put in by Tesla. Tesla is a very large company with a lot of resources. What we are seeing now is these solar projects are done, they're all being done by LLCs and they're being backed by financial companies. So there's like financial companies that are actually organizing the solar project and then they hire somebody to build it. And they aren't all, I would say, fully equipped to execute on a project. And they're also limiting their risk and liability by forming these LLCs for each individual location. And so the market, there's a lot of players that have entered the market, and I think they're not all equipped to be successful.
I certainly understand that, but considering this is a climate action report, it would seem that we would have to look further at solar because it just makes the most sense. And just like our rates are going up, Edison's rates are going to continue to go up. So at some point, financing it with maybe some other type of WIFIA loan, if those ever get going, or something that the government helps support, will make sense because we'll still save money. And I just want to bring up one other little point of your report. And I looked it up so I know what this is. What does anthropogenic mean? It's in here. It's not described. It's not defined.
Caused by humans.
Correct. Okay, Joe, if you could go to the slide under new actions, I think it was a couple slides ago. I have a question. If not, I can ask my question without it. It's not a problem.
Okay, what slide?
It said new actions on it before this one.
Okay.
Yeah, under purchase and store groundwater for use during drought conditions. Can we also look at Department of Water and Power? I know they're doing a lot of groundwater and they're our neighbors and we're already plumbed to them. I think it's a natural, I know we're looking at Central Valley and I like all the above. We could just make sure we include Los Angeles in that search. And then as far as the feedback on the solar, for one, I sit here as thinking that it's a resource, the sun, that is coming out anyway, and that we could put solar panels in now that the rest of the future of this district would be able to prosper from. Maybe, I'm really, really interested in studying it, and you figure out which is the best ones or how much to do and all that stuff is a no-brainer to go forward and study. But I think it's something that makes sense, even if we break even now or even losing money now. But if you factor over the course of 30, 50 years, it's a resource coming down, might as well take advantage of it. And also it goes to our ethos of, where's our mission statement?
Environmentally sensitive manner.
Yeah.
Cost effective and environmentally.
Yeah, so it's very sustainable issue.
Yeah.
So, and maybe there'll be new administrations that'll give us benefits in the future that we can't even think about. So things can change.
Yeah, I was mostly trying to pull Director Levine's heartstrings on pursuing solar from a financial standpoint.
I think you did a good job. Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for that report, and we'll move on.
One more
Director Burns.
question on that same slide. What is the feasibility that Ocean Well could be advanced enough that if we have another drought, a small study unit could be in the ocean near here and provide us water, even if it was in some sort of wheeling or trading with LADWP or something like that?
Are you referring to floating solar on the ocean?
No, not solar.
Pilot.
I'm off solar.
Pilot.
A pilot study with Ocean Well if we have a problem. And how even pure water will be ready if we have
28.
an ocean, if we have a drought issue in 28?
Yeah, I think pure water, we can count on pure water being online. We have a predictable online date. Ocean Well, I think more work needs to be done. If the idea is to actually plumb it into the system, I think that would be pretty uncertain at this time. And there's a lot of permitting issues. We are talking about a demonstration plant, but I think more work needs to be done on that to have certainty about it.
Well, one thing I've always learned is don't let a good crisis go to waste. So if there is one, maybe all of the districts in Los Angeles would get together and want to see something happen with Ocean Well in a demonstration plan.
The water banking is the most immediate without any infrastructure. So that would be in a drought, probably the first easy, low hanging fruit to pick.
Yeah, the groundwater banking is probably our best option. It's a good stopgap until we get these other supplies. And even once we get these other supplies up and running, we might want to hold on, have part of our portfolio remain as the groundwater banking.
These will be great discussions near the end of 26 that we look forward to. All right, thank you, Joe. And now we'll move on to number B, public hearing on vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts, page 337 in your scorebook. And we're going to do a public hearing, and I'll start it. This is, now is the time and the place appointed for the conduct of a public hearing on the status of Las Virgenes Municipal Water District's vacancies and recruitment retention efforts and any necessary changes to policies, procedures, and recruitment activities that may lead to obstacles in the hiring process in accordance with Assembly Bill 2561. The recognized employee organization for each bargaining unit at the district is allowed to make presentations during the public hearing concerning vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts. If you'd like to address the board to voice your thoughts, please complete a speaker information card and give it to the clerk of the board. Upon conclusion of staff and any bargaining unit presentations, the hearing will be open for your comments and will become part of the official public record. I'd like to call on the clerk of the board, please.
The district has caused notice of this hearing to be published in the Las Virgenes Calabasas Enterprise. Publishing was on March 26th and April 2nd.
And I will now call upon Maria Songer to present. Following Ms. Songer's presentation, recognized employee organization for any of the district's 4 bargaining units may also present.
Good morning. I'm here to present the AB 2561 public hearing on the status of our vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts.
Speak into the mic, please.
Yes, sorry, it's a little bit new to me. I feel a little,
Thank you.
there we go. Click through. There we go. Sorry about that. As a reminder, here's the purpose of this bill. We did it for the first time last year, so this is the second time around. Please note our vacancy rate is not anywhere near the 20% mark. Our recruitment and selection process overview remains the same. We start off by the department submitting a requisition to fill a vacancy. We then post the position, we do the screening, we have first and second round interviews, and then we do have a selected candidate go through a background check with a conditional offer of employment. The recruitment information for 2025 is right here. We have 130 budgeted positions, 24 recruitments, and we did fill them all with 15 new hires and 9 promotions. As of today, the updates are that we do have 3 vacancies. The district-wide vacancy rate is now 2.31%. 2 vacancies are in the general unit, 1 is in the SPC unit. General unit now has a 3.33% vacancy rate. SPC unit has a 2.86% vacancy rate. The status of vacancies, again, as of today, are now 3. So we do have the electrical instrumentation technician 1/2 and the water reclamation plant operator 1/2/3/OIT, both in the general unit. One is in the application filing period. The other one is in backgrounds. We also now have the SPC vacancy be the accountant. That one is currently receiving applications as well. We continue to look at potential hiring issues and solutions as stated in this slide. For 2025, we did have 21 vacancies created, and you'll see them reflected in this chart. We had 9 internal promotions, 7 resignations, 3 retirements, and 2 new positions. Our separation rate was 7.69%. Our staffing turnover rate, 5.38%. As I mentioned, we do continue to work on retention efforts as well. So we've done a lot. We implemented and continue to implement the organizational and staffing analysis that was completed in 2023. We formed a workforce development committee to update the district's succession plan and lead workforce development initiatives. We identified and addressed gaps in career ladders across the organization. We provide staff with resources to be successful in opportunities. For example, HR presented a lunch and learn to staff on tips for success in the recruitment process. We launched an employee spotlight program, a district swag store, job shadow, and cross-training programs. We implemented celebrations such as retirement celebrations and annual service recognition celebrations for staff. In 2023, we started new hire surveys at the 30 and 90-day marks. Here's what we found. The main attraction is the position, benefits and salary. Compensation package was thought to be about the same, better or much better when compared to other employers. Feedback shows that new hires are inspired by teamwork, growth opportunities, and contributing to broader organizational success. Overall, new hires appreciated the comprehensive support and resources provided during their first 90 days. 95% said they feel happy to very happy with all that the district has to offer. No significant concerns or negative feedback were raised in this set of responses, suggesting general satisfaction among recent new hires. So in summary, all of these retention efforts contribute to a positive workplace culture, which is key in allowing the district attract, engage, and retain the top talent. That's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions for Maria? Okay. And I recognize that the employee organization for each bargaining unit at the district may present at this time. And are any requests from recognized employee organizations to present on this matter?
No requests were received prior to the public hearing. So you can move on to the next.
I'm sorry?
None were received.
Okay. And now, so now, and no written comments either? Okay. And now, I declare the hearing closed. Does the board have any questions or comments?
Keep on keeping on.
Okay. Thank you very much. And now we move on to external affairs. We update the draft 2025 Urban Water Management Plan, notice of availability, review, and provide feedback on the draft 2025 Urban Water Management Plan, page 349. If Craig Malone Jones could please provide the report.
Thank you, Vice President Lewitt. Honorable Board. My screen, let me just get into presentation mode. We are. Well, as mentioned, the item before you this morning, 9A. Make sure that I'm not echoing, am I? I'm good? Okay. The item before you this morning is the draft 2025 Urban Water Management Plan, notice of availability. Just some quick background before I introduce our colleagues from Stantec. So back in June of 25, again, as reflected in the board report before you this morning, the district retained the services of Stantec Consulting to develop and prepare our 2025 draft Urban Water Management Plan, which includes our water shortage contingency plan. Again, just a big thanks to the resource conservation team and engineering and just district staff as a whole, Joe, about 9 months up to this point of work to get to where we are today. So just by way of introduction, in simple terms, an urban water management plan is a long-term water resources planning document required by California Water Code for all urban water suppliers. And basically, it's essentially designed to demonstrate to the state that LVMWD can provide water to meet our future demands. So I'm going to now turn it over. I'm going to introduce Carrie Poitras and Ryan Mahoney with Stantec. They're going to give you the nuts and bolts and walk you through the details of the draft, and then I'll come back up and read the formal recommendation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Carrie and Ryan. Sorry. Can we just have the banner removed from the bottom of the slide?
Thank you. Good morning, directors. I'm Carrie Poitras with Stantec, and I'm going to be going over the draft urban water management plan this morning. So like Craig said, this is a required document by the state to ensure that the district has enough water supplies to meet the long-term needs. It's required by legislation, and it's an essential report, and it helps to work as a planning document for future projects within the district boundaries. It's due every 5 years. So the last update that you had was in 2020, and now this is going to be the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan, and it's due to the state on July 1st. The key components of the Urban Water Management Plan, obviously it's to help make sure that you meet the water demands during a normal year, single dry year, and then a multiple dry year conditions, and it's usually over a 5-year period. We look at future demand projections, future reliability assessments. The big part of this plan is a standalone water shortage contingency plan, and it also describes the description of the source resiliency plans. So we walk through the various projects that you have planned in the future. We look at future projections of population increase, any projects that you have planned in the future in terms of water supply, but also looking at making sure that you can meet your district's demands. And one of the main things we want to note, in that you already know, is that you have a large reliance on metropolitan water, and that's a key factor in the urban water management plan. So this slide is just showing a brief service area, and going to be then talking about population projections. We look at what's happening within your district and how you're interacting with Triumph Water and Sanitation District, and particularly your future water, pure water project. So population is projected to grow slightly. It's very minor growth over the next 20 years. And mostly it's just small growth within your residential sector. This slide's showing your historical water use summary, looking back to 2016, and you can see majority of your water is being used by single-family residential for your potable. And then you do have landscape water that's using the non-potable recycled water. And I'm going to hand it over to Ryan. He's going to go through the technical parts of the report, and we're going to talk a lot about your demand management measures, which are kind of key to this district in order for you to show that your supplies meet your demand.
Thanks, Carrie. This demand management measure slide is admittedly a busy slide, but it doesn't scratch the surface on what the district is doing on demand management. So that comes on the side of essentially legislative mandates, such as the continued reduction of indoor residential standards. This 2025 was reduced to 47 gallons per capita per day, and further reduction to 42 by 2030. And then there's continued regulations on outdoor efficiency standards, and the commercial, industrial, and institutional through the prohibition of non-functional turf,
a continued or additional focus on water loss audits with progress towards the 2028 standards. And the board itself has been active. We note in our report about the importance of the budget-based water billing structure that is used, and how the investments in metering will yield benefits on both on the AMI project completed and more scaling up of active leak detection activities. Obviously, those robust irrigation and landscape efficiency programs in the district, that's all noted in the report. So, and as well as public education and outreach. So now we have two kind of competing overall like forces when we try to project for the long term over the 20 years of this period. So there's obviously population growth driven by our conservative assumptions using the housing elements for the district's geographic area. And there's also the efficiency standards driving down demand management on a per capita basis. So these essentially, both of these factors are factored into our future projections in the urban water management plan. Obviously this is an important component of understanding the reliability of the system. Now, I won't go through this table in depth, but just to draw your attention to the subtotal on the potable side and the total at the very bottom here, to show that there is, over the next essentially 15 years up to 2040, there's noted reductions in total water use. And then essentially after 2040, there's very few kind of additional conservation and other policies that take effect between 2040 and 2045. So that increase from 2040 to 2045 is based on pure just population increase, but overall still remaining below where the system is currently. Where is the district getting this water? You all know a great deal about the various sources, and this is just for illustrative purposes. We'll go through in depth many of these subcomponents, but the most important by far is certainly the imported water, at least in the short term. So that's once again mostly coming from Metropolitan, and there's essentially the orange bars are Metropolitan. But once again, this is another trend line showing certainly lower potable water use since say 5 or 10 years ago. So based on the conservation programs that have been ongoing. Now what makes the district's water supply sources resilient? This is an overview of the first asset the system has is Las Virgenes Reservoir for short-term storage. There's also emergency interties with LADWP and Callegas. Groundwater banking has been already discussed at this meeting, and the upcoming Pure Water project, of course. Also, we incorporate some aspects of the water supply diversification study in future projections as things like the ocean well pilot and stormwater augmentation, additional water exchanges and banking, and potential partnering more broadly. These are kind of the standard water supply options. Now, the other requirement in the same state law and the water code is on the district essentially completing a water shortage contingency plan. This is when there is a shortage, when there's a noted shortage for a given year, what will the district do to address it? This is separately voted on and passed as a standalone document. And it incorporates lessons from recent droughts, decision-making processes for water planning, and the supply and demand augmentation actions. Those are essentially the contingency plan actions that will address the water shortage. And obviously, those actions will be dependent on the severity of the water shortage level. This district adopted four emergency levels of shortage, in addition to the normal supply conditions that was adopted in 2016. You can see those definitions here at the table. Now, the water shortage contingency plan really does mirror and align the decision-making processes with Metropolitan and their water shortage contingency plan. And an important trigger for many of these actions is when MWD triggers a water supply allocation plan at a given time. So the actions are divided into kind of supply augmentation and then demand augmentation. So the supply augmentation actions are listed here, and around first being groundwater banking and then stored emergency supply. And these will obviously be scaled up depending on the shortage severity. So there's various, and there's also the option of increasing purchasing water through groundwater banking. Perhaps the more extensive potential options around the contingency planning is on demand augmentation. There's a whole host of augmentation actions. Obviously, there's existing conservation policies in place for the general no shortage situation for Las Virgenes, but an important action is the increased enforcement of existing landscaping and water use policies, scaling that up, making gains in that realm, as well as expansion of public information campaigns. There's the possibility of implementing or modifying drought rate structures and surcharges, prohibition on certain water uses, and scaled up installation of flow restriction devices. Once again, this is a situation where the severity of these actions increases as the severity of the shortage increases. So using all this information on projecting what future demands might look like, looking at what the supply diversification situation might be in the future, the UWMP requires, the Urban Water Management Plan requires analyzing service reliability and drought risk assessment. This is done through various scenarios that essentially the state requires us run through. And I'll mainly focus on the shortage, the drought, the multiple year drought or multiple year water shortage conditions, as they're the most, I guess, difficult to manage. So on some of the normal year scenarios, there's nothing considerable to discuss. But on the water service reliability assessment, this essentially looks at the past 10 years and what's the lowest 5-year period that the district has experienced in the last 10 years. And what if that were to repeat, say, in 2030? What if it were that same 5-year dry period were to repeat in 2035? Would the district have the water supply to meet demand, or would a water supply contingency plan need to be activated? That's, obviously all these augmentation actions. So there's essentially no water shortage contingency plan action required for any of these scenarios. Obviously, this includes all the projections we've just talked about, including the Pure Water project and 2,100 acre feet, with the component being shared through the JPA in 2030, and then additional in 2035. We assume constant recycled water use just based on the district's demand trend overall. And once again, no water shortage contingency plan actions are required to meet demand in these scenarios. Now, on the other hand, we run the analysis of a drought risk assessment, which includes 5 consecutive very dry years. So it essentially has us look back 10 years and what's the single driest year, and what if that dry year were to happen 5 years in a row? What would the situation be for Las Virgenes? And all the same demand supply conditions are incorporated, but you see in the first year, there's no water supply contingency plan actions required, but the second, third, and fourth year do require some both supply and demand augmentation actions. Otherwise, there would be a shortfall of water. And obviously, this is based on the more acute, more immediate drought conditions as required by the Urban Water Management Plan. And essentially in the last year, what really pulls the district out of a water shortage contingency plan is the projected supply from pure water. And so in general, these are all the different stress testing methods that are required in this urban water management plan, a long-term planning tool. And it shows reliable water supply, but that's dependent on ongoing conservation and implementation of actions like the ones you're studying in the water supply diversification study. These diversification efforts are key in strengthening drought resilience. Local conservation and demand management remain essential for a district like Las Virgenes. And we didn't find any new major risks that threaten the ability to meet future demands, just provided that the district continues on the trend where it's being exhaustive and implementing the plans that they have set in motion. And so the district finds themselves positions for future regulatory and climate uncertainty that we know are coming. So with that, I'll note just the next steps on the public comment period is ongoing right now. This is, there'll be a public hearing again in June, and final documentation filed with the state by the deadline on July 1st, 2026. And I'll hand it over to Craig for the recommendation.
Thank you, Ryan. So the recommendation before the board this morning reads as to receive the draft 2025 Urban Water Management Plan and Water Shortage Contingency Plan and provide feedback by May 15th of 26. And that concludes our report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones, for that thorough report. Any questions, comments? Director Poland?
I don't know if it has any impact, but I know that I don't know, I've heard that LVMWD is considering outlawing plastic grass, turf. And I also noticed that we are having some growth in Agoura Hills specifically right now. There's an area which was commercial retail and it's been converted to residential pursuant to the change in state law, which allows things to go through. So are the growth plans, how do they accommodate these odd effects?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Director Poland. As you know, this is a planning document. The population is the key, not even so much the change in usage. I think that's the hardest thing to predict. So
that's what I figured. It's an untrackable variable.
yes,
You can't
again,
an unpredictable variable. There it is.
correct. And I stress that it's a planning document.
Right. Okay. Thank you. It's excellently presented. Thank you.
So we look at what the cities and also the county, what their housing plan, what's the document called? The housing plans that they develop, and a lot of that is to meet state targets for housing. And so there's a lot of coordination with the cities to come up with these population growth numbers. Of course, we're always thinking about ADUs and multi-generations, kind of a trend. You're going to see more adult children staying at home and not moving out. So it is a little bit of a, kind of an art more than science, I think, population predictions. So I do want to point out too, though, there's been a lot of coordination with the Craig's efforts and Stantec with Urban Water Management Plan, and then what we're also doing with the water supply diversification study. So those growth numbers, population growth, there's alignment between the two documents.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much for that exhaustive report. All right, now we're moving on to the External Affairs 9B, enforcement measures. Wait, Enforcement measures for water theft and unauthorized water use, page 510. I'd like to introduce the public hearing, the first reading. Now is the time, and this is the place appointed for the conduct of a public hearing to consider continuation of a water standby charge for the district for the 20th consecutive year. If you'd like to address the board to voice your thoughts, please complete a speaker information card and give it to the clerk of the board. Upon conclusion of testimony, the staff presentation, the hearing will be open for your comments and will be part of the official public record on the water standby charge.
The district has caused a notice of this hearing to be published in the Las Virgenes Calabasas Enterprise. Publishing dates were March 26th and April 2nd of 2026.
I'll now call upon Ursula Bossum to explain the intent of the proposed water standby charge.
Good morning, members of the board. So on October 10th, 2025, Governor Newsom approved Senate Bill number 394, revising fines that a water agency may charge in the event of water theft or unauthorized water use. This bill was co-sponsored by us, the district, and it became effective on January 1st, 2026. Staff proposes updates to the Las Virgenes Municipal Water District Code to reflect the new fines and ensure that the district's enforcement practices are aligned with state law. Proposed ordinance number 291 will update the Las Virgenes Municipal Water District Code to incorporate the provisions of Senate Bill number 394 and more effectively deter water theft and unauthorized water use. Specific revisions include in the code reflect that water theft is prohibited. Each act of water theft constitutes a misdemeanor. The district may report any water theft to appropriate prosecuting agencies. In addition to pursuing criminal penalties, the district may, upon discovering water theft, also pursue the following fines. So water theft committed by meter tampering will start at $130 and can go up to $1,300 for each violation within a 1-year period of the first violation. Water theft by any means other than meter tampering starting at $1,000 and up to $3,000 for each violation within a 1-year period of the first violation. And then water theft committed via an authorized connection to a fire hydrant starting at $2,500 and can reach up to $10,000 for each violation. Enforcement of violations include a notice of violation, criminal charges, and penalties. Customers shall be encouraged to report violations, and customer service will be working with public affairs to educate customers on what they should do if they see water theft and how to report it. Customers will have the right to appeal enforcement fines to the general manager, and the general manager may grant hardship waivers on any fines if the fine imposes a financial burden. The second reading and adoption of proposed ordinance number 291 will take place at the April 21st, 2026 regular board meeting. And this concludes my portion of the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Persons who wish to speak on this matter may do so at this time. Please avoid the testimony of others if possible. Limit your remarks to 5 minutes. Clerk of the board, are there any requests for the public to speak?
There are no public comment requests.
Okay. Have any written comments?
There are no written comments.
Okay. I now declare the hearing closed. Does the board have any questions or comments? Director Poland?
I support it entirely. Thank you.
Anybody else? I would just like to say, my comment is that this was our bill that we dreamt of, that we pushed, that we worked hard on. And I believe we're the first, we will be the first if this passes. I know we have a vote coming up, but if this will be the first water district to implement this new bill, which I think is awesome. And I think what we need to do is take the lead and also encourage other water districts to follow. So if there's any way that we can get this out to all, there's 400 water districts in California and whoever else may be involved in our associations, and some tell them what we did, and maybe they can even borrow our script and follow our lead. Because I think if you have a bill that makes sense, it makes sense to us and really had no opposition in California, that we need to promote it, because if no one knows about it or no one's doing anything about it, it's almost like it didn't happen. So with that being said, may I have a motion to waive the full reading and call for proposed ordinance number 291 to be given first reading by title only, waive further reading, and introduce ordinance number 290.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Okay, and now please, if the clerk could conduct a roll call?
Director Levine,
Yes.
Director Burns,
Yes.
Director Poland,
Yes.
Director Lewitt,
Yes.
Director Kordesky.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, and now, District Council, if you could please read ordinance number 291 by title only.
Title only, all right. Ordinance number 291, an ordinance of the Board of Directors of Las Virgenes Municipal Water District as it relates to enforcement measures for water theft and unauthorized water use. And let me just add, this is an amusing situation for me because it's the first time that I've presented a legal opinion to a client they didn't like, and then they went and changed the law. So congratulations on that.
Is that good or bad?
I like it.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much, Ursula. And now moving on to number 10, Finance and Technology. 10A, Pure Water Project Las Virgenes Triunfo, authorization of payment obligations for construction loan and grant agreement with State Water Resources Control Board. Page 532 of Brian Ritchie could please provide the report?
Yes, good morning, members of the board, back for round 2. So yesterday, the JPA board and the Public Financing Authority board each approved resolutions to enter into a construction loan and grant agreement with the State Water Resources Control Board, or SWRCB, through the California Clean Water State Revolving Fund Program. That agreement provides up to $69,240,000 in loan financing and an additional $15 million in grant funding for the Pure Water Project Las Virgenes Triunfo. So in conjunction with those approvals, staff is recommending that the board pass, approve, and adopt resolution number 2669, which authorizes LVMWD to incur a payment obligation under its payment agreement in a principal amount of up to $52,950,000. So that represents the 70.6% allocable share of the debt service under the loan and grant agreement that was approved last night at the JPA and PFA meetings. The remaining 29.4% share is the responsibility of TWSD, and that will be brought to their board for approval later this month. So in terms of the structure, as we discussed yesterday at those meetings, the agreement is essentially between the financing JPA and the operating JPA and SWRCB. They'll enter into the agreement, and then the two partner agencies, LVMWD and TWSD, are both responsible for their share of the allocable debt service. So as Joe mentioned a little bit earlier, obviously major advantages with the SRF loan, very favorable interest rate, expected to be about 2.2% right now, and that'll be over a term of 30 years. So the staff recommends that the board pass, approve, and adopt proposed resolution number 2669, authorizing the incurrence of a payment obligation under LVMWD's payment agreement in an initial principal amount up to $52,950,000, ratifying the prior approval of the payment agreement and authorizing its execution.
Thank you very much, Brian. Now we'd like to have a motion and a second, please.
I'll make it.
Discussion?
Second.
Oh, they got California beat out Arizona. We got it quicker. You gotta upgrade your Wi-Fi network over there.
Yeah, our basketball team didn't do too well either.
Any discussion? Yeah. Michigan, any discussion? No? Okay, now we need a roll call vote, please.
Director Levine,
Yes.
Director Burns,
Yes.
Director Poland,
Yes.
Director Lewitt,
Yes.
Director Kordesky.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. And now we're gonna move on to number B. Don't go anywhere, Brian.
Right back.
Pure Water Project Las Virgenes Triunfo, authorization of payment obligations for credit agreement to provide interim financing, page 612.
Yes, so similar to the SRF agreement, Yesterday, the operating JPA and the financing JPA boards both authorized the administering agent, general manager to execute a credit agreement for interim financing of the Pure Water project with Wells Fargo Bank. The principal component of that is not to exceed $155 million. So in conjunction with those two approvals that occurred yesterday, staff is requesting that the board pass, approve, and adopt resolution number 2670, which authorizes LVMWD to incur a payment obligation under its payment agreement in an initial principal amount up to $109,430,000. And that, again, that represents LVMWD's 70.6% allocable share of the installment payments due under the credit agreement. So the remaining 29.4% will be the responsibility of TWSD. And as I mentioned before, that will come to their board later in the month for approval. So amounts drawn under the credit agreement are under a variable interest rate. And I checked today, that rate is 3.26% as of today. So the recommendation is for the board to pass, approve, and adopt proposed resolution number 2670, authorizing the incurrence of a payment obligation under LVMWD's payment agreement in an initial principal amount up to $109,430,000, ratifying the prior approval of the payment agreement and authorizing its execution.
Thank you, Brian. And we need we need a motion and a second, please.
I'll make that motion and wait for Andy
President,
to second it.
I'll second it.
okay, Kat seconded. And now, any discussion? All right, so roll call vote.
Director Levine,
Yes.
Director Burns,
109 million times yes.
Director Poland,
Yes.
Director Lewitt,
Yes,
Director Kordesky.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you. Great work, Brian.
Thank you.
And now number 11, Water Operations Contractual Laboratory Services, page 752. Veronica Bertaldo, if you could please provide the report.
Good morning, directors. As you are aware, the district operates a state-certified water quality laboratory at Tapia, and they are capable of running routine, more common analysis, but it's not feasible for staff to maintain the necessary instrumentation and certifications, supplies, materials to run all the analysis that are regulatory requirements for compliance. So therefore, we enlist the contractual services of a laboratory, of a professional laboratory to send out analysis that we don't do in-house. Our current laboratory services contract is with WEC Laboratories that is expiring on April 15th. And so we went out to bid, posted a request for proposals on OpenGov, and we received 6 proposals for new contractual laboratory services, with the lowest responsive bid coming from Eurofins Drinking Water and Wastewater West, LLC. They would perform the additional analytical work for regulatory compliance, and we've also needed a 2-year special sampling plan to conduct analysis for the Pure Water project at the Las Virgenes Reservoir. So that was proposed by from Eurofins to do that work was $481,962.43. However, to capture additional costs that we don't always foresee, duplication samples, emergency samples, so like disaster, fire analyses, for example, and anything that we haven't captured for preliminary testing for the advanced water purification facility, I've requested an additional 10% recommendation. So the recommendation before the board is to accept the proposal from Eurofins Drinking Water and Wastewater West LLC and authorize the general manager to execute a 1-year professional services agreement in the amount not to exceed $530,158, with 4 one-year renewal options, including 3% annual inflationary adjustments for contractual laboratory services. That concludes my report. I can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. And before any questions, we need a motion and a second, please.
I'll make the motion to approve the item as published.
I will second it.
Comments, questions?
I have, unless someone else does.
Go ahead.
So I guess my initial thought is, well, as always, I'm really glad to see all the other bids listed. That isn't always done, and I appreciate understanding which one was the most responsive bid. But for $500,000 a year, why can't we bring this, that over 5 years is $2.5 million. Why can't we bring this entirely in-house? Would it necessitate additional employees, space? I can understand. But for this kind of cost, it would seem to me that we should do this ourselves. At some point, it's got to make sense, but I could be wrong.
I can answer that, Director Burns. It's a very good question and something that I have in my mind. For immediate testing, so this is inflated for that 2-year sampling plan. So that's a short-term analysis that we don't want to staff for 2 years until we establish that baseline water quality at Las Virgenes Reservoir. However, to really bring all the regulatory requirements in-house, it would require a much larger staff, maintenance and acquiring instrumentation to do all those analysis. And we have to consider the materials that it will take to operate that, as well as annual recertifications for those instruments. For now, we have the staffing to do the analysis that we currently have in-house. We are bringing on staff in the future, and I'm already considering perhaps bringing something that's more of a routine, maybe a quarterly analysis in-house. And we are going to have another lab at the Pure Water plant, so we could probably put some instrumentation there. So space limitations, staffing limitations, cost effectiveness are all considerations to take before we bring any more analytical instrumentation in-house.
Okay. Also, wouldn't these companies that just specialize in this be experts in this area, and that we don't really necessarily have even that expertise that they would have?
That is true. They would have expertise in mass spectroscopy, for example. They have the instrumentation. They probably have an entire lab dedicated just to running metals.
I'm wondering, are they also have insurance too? So let's say we made a mistake and something happened with the water, but versus if they did, would they be responsible for that mistake?
Yes, in our contract, we require them to have the insurance and defensible analytical quality control and quality assurance.
It kind of gets another separate pair of eyes looking at it. We're day to day in it, and they kind of have another person looking at it and giving us some objective
But
information.
at the same time, I think it should be studied to see what the cost differential is what I was saying, and we'd have the results much faster.
I'm sure you do that anyway, right? You're looking at always what's best in-house or outside.
Yes, we are. We are constantly reviewing what's the most cost-effective way to process these samples for regulatory compliance.
And safest.
Are we using one of these companies now that it's expiring and we put it out to bid, or?
Yeah, WEC Laboratories is our current company.
Rec?
Yeah, they were second bid.
One last question. Oftentimes we have the proposal and then 4 one-year additions, but in this particular case, you have a 3% inflation rider. Where did that come from?
It was in the request for proposals that they include an inflationary statement, and it was up to the proposer to submit that in their costs. So they could have stated a flat rate, or they could have connected it to CPI. What I noticed was that 3% for a few of them was a standard, and then the others connected their inflationary rate to CPI.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you. So now we have a motion, a second, a roll call vote, please.
Director Levine,
Yes.
Director Burns,
Yes.
Director Poland,
Yes.
Director Lewitt,
Yes.
Director Kordesky.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thanks,
Thank
Veronica.
you.
Now, number 12, non-action items, general manager's report. Like to call on our general manager for his report, please.
Thank you. Good morning to you. I just wanted to point out a couple things. I passed out a copy of what we're calling the strategic priority item preliminary ranking. Appreciate all the engagement last week at our strategic planning meeting. This matrix was something that we had planned to go through at the meeting at the end. We didn't have enough time. And so what we've done is we've listed the items that were discussed. Here, there's a total of 7 of them. I actually just penciled in an 8th item based on the conversation that we've had this morning at the board meeting here, including a study for the feasibility of additional solar at both Las Virgenes Reservoir and or the district headquarters here. So by my count, we've got 8 items total. What we'd ask is if you could take a look at this and see if we are missing anything. There are a couple lines to write in items if we've missed something, and get those into either myself or to Nancy by the end of the week. And then we'll send out a final version of this for you each to rank them. And we're going to do a forced ranking. So they'll be rank them in items 1 through 8. And then we'll compile that information and share it at our next board meeting with you. Other items to mention, if you look at the calendar, I think it was Director Burns who had noted in August, looking ahead, we actually have 3 different conferences that are coming up in August. That will be the CASA annual conference in Napa. We have the annual Urban Water Institute conference, which will be in San Diego, Coronado. And then there's also the California Special Districts Association conference that will be in Palm Desert. So I just wanted to note that if you are looking at making plans, August is a busy month for conferences. And then last, on follow-up items, we do have a follow-up item that Director Poland asked for, and we are working on that item. It relates to the intersection of Agoura Road and Lindero Canyon Road, where we found that that intersection, we're having some issues with our pipeline there being affected by what appears to be a historic leak from a underground storage tank at the adjacent gas station. We are preparing to bring that item to the board on May 13th, and it will be a closed session discussion. And that concludes my report.
Any questions for the GM? I have a note on the August that was missing is the California water reuse, August 24th to 26th in San Francisco.
Yes, good point. That is actually an additional. So we actually have 4 conferences.
Yeah.
We'll add that.
What was that, Jay?
California water reuse, August 24th through 26th in the city by the bay,
Yes.
which is making a comeback, I'm told.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do have a comment. Yeah, I do
August
have.
24, Monday to 26.
It overlaps with the CSDA, okay.
Yeah, Mr. President?
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, Dave, could I won't be in California until Friday. So could I get that that sheet that I guess everybody has on their desk, maybe emailed to me or something? Thank you so much.
I'll give you Andy's. Okay, and now follow-up items, any follow-up items?
Just the one I mentioned that will come back on May 13th.
Yeah, the rank, May 13th, which one was that again? I'm sorry.
That's the review of the, I'll let him tell.
The intersection at
Okay.
at Agoura Road and Lindero
Okay,
Canyon Road.
director's comments, any board member like to make a comment?
Yeah, I would.
Oh.
If I don't want to step on anybody, but yeah, I just I do want to comment on how much I appreciated the board's and the staff's time with our strategic meeting of last week. As I've said before, I watched that same strategic meeting before I decided to join the board, and it really helped convince me that this was a well-functioning board and a top-notch staff, and it really encouraged me to go ahead and get involved with the board. I really appreciated the time in sort of it was sort of free form, but also sort of structured where the directors could actually interact directly on various topics. We don't get the opportunity to do that due to due to the Brown law. And so I just overall, I just really appreciated that time and honestly, we felt a little rushed at the end. Maybe we can extend it longer in years to come. But I thank staff and the board of directors for making that such a worthwhile meeting.
I thought you were going to say how well today's meeting went. It was run.
Today's meeting is amazing.
Director Burns?
I wanted to say thank you to Joe. In reading the CAAP, the extensive amount of work you and staff must have put into that put me to sleep. No, actually, it's very, very, very extensive information, and of course had some terms that I didn't understand that I had to look up, but it's really impressive the amount of work that you put in. And Craig, your report also, tremendous amount of work done by staff, and I wanted to thank you for doing that. It must keep you many, many, many hours of not sleeping. So thank you very much.
And I'd like to echo the president's comments. You know, very rarely do we get, obviously the board can't meet by ourselves because of the Brown Act, but very rarely do we get to pontificate about what our vision is. And I think it's nice for staff to hear it and then hopefully listen to some of it and maybe even implement some of it, which is really nice. And I think it's I would say love to go back to that same place again. I thought that was the most beautiful place we've been. But also maybe make it longer, maybe continue. We had the place the whole day, maybe for the same cost. We could stay there even all day and do some more, because it's only once a year. So, okay, now future agenda items. Anyone on the board wish to have a future agenda item? No? Okay. Well, now we're going to go into closed session. Nancy, you need 5 minutes?
I do, Director Kordesky. I just emailed you the link to closed session.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you back here at 11:11.
Great job, Jay.
And it does. I was like kind of walking around like, I took the complicated ones and then I saw this, I'm like, ooh, this is crazy. So much going on.
So I'm looking out.
Mr. Vice President, would you like me to do the report out of closed session?
We're ready.
We're good. Board met in closed session to discuss the items identified on the agenda. I do have one reportable item. The claim by Victoria Geim was considered by the board on a it was unanimously voted to be denied. I forget, who was the first and second on the motion? I didn't write that down.
Sorry. Director Pollan was the first and the second was Director Burns.
Okay, on a motion by Director Pollan, second by Director Burns, and unanimously voted, the claim was denied with instructions given to staff to send statutory notice of denial. Mr. President, that concludes the report.
Anything else? All right, whoever had the overs, congratulations.